What did I teach you?
You're no canoe. No, you're hey, number one.
I can't hear you.
You pop the Duke of New York. You're hey, number one.
Peace, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Let me know in the chat if you can. Peace. Islam, that's what's up. Islam, I hope everybody's well, inshallah. Another bright day in the apocalypse for everybody. Hope everybody's good. As good as we can be, inshallah. Word, a lot going on. Peace. Brother Brock said the CFPO of the SPLC got arrested for fraud. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Couldn't have happened to a better person. That is excellent news. Somebody there must not have framed enough Moors or framed enough melanated people, because they really going after them, which is a great thing, I think. And it should be celebrated, because they did a lot to be able to create the situation that Moors find themselves in, always having to try to show and prove who and what we are and all of that nonsense to people who barely understand what nationality is. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a win. And now a lot of the cases that Moors went through where these fake barristers was using the term sovereign citizen and things like that to describe Moors or people who were identifying with that or trying to stand on their rights, using their original indigenous nationality and things like that, where they tried to use that as a means to disqualify them, to say that they was some sort of black extremity, black identity extremist, which again is just another made up word, another made up term to try to isolate people. There's no precedent for that term or any term like that at law or in law itself. So again, this is definitely a win for us, you know what I mean, as well as an indictment on their whole fictitious racial identifying, racial category based system that really, again, has no merit in real law. They just use it as a means to try to disqualify people from standing up for their own rights and things like that. Just like the other day, I found out that they're trying to indict this brother for stopping them from going into his phone when he came back from some country. He came back from some country, and in doing so, they tried to go through his phone, and he told them no. So they basically was trying to force him to give them the code. So he gave them the code that basically wipes the phone. So from there, they tried to say that was against the law. That was some sort of illegal act of him trying to destroy evidence. So according to the statute, because this is all statutory bullshit, federal statutory bullshit they're trying to catch you up on. They don't have to necessarily prove that there was anything illegal in the phone. They just have to try to go out and say that because he destroyed the evidence that they gave him, meaning that he gave them the code. They put the code in. They destroyed whatever was in there by using that code. And then they're trying to say that that was somehow illegal. I think he can still beat it because the whole thing is an illegal action anyway. They don't have the right to go through your phone according to the Supreme Court and all of that anyway, because the phone is an extension of your private property. And unless you have a warrant, they have no right to get it. So if he get the right small hat to defend him, he probably could get out. You know what I'm saying? But what this says to me or what it should say to the rest of us is, when you traveling in and out of the country and all of that, get you a flip phone, get you some sort of whatever phone, some sort of bullshit burner phone, so that way you don't got to worry about none of this. You know what I'm saying? Stop traveling with your real phone, so that way they could go in and try to go into your Facebook profile, because that's all they want to do is see what you're talking about online. So don't give them the satisfaction. Just get you a bullshit burner phone, and while you traveling, travel with that. Hell, get you a BlackBerry. You know what I'm saying? Do that. Also, if nobody, they about to come out with the iPhone 17, I'm telling you, don't get it. Don't get that phone, because that phone is the first generation to have the open Israeli chips in it. So, they could probably Johnny Cochran you with that shit. You know what I mean? Activate the kill switch in it. Start siphoning out your energy. Start siphoning out your information, or worse. Just, do the reverse hack shit that they was doing when they was killing all them people with them cell phones. So the best way, like I said, if you have an old one that you're using now, keep that one up to date, keep it good, and all of that. But any phone after the 17, man, it's a wrap for you. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't suggest you get that. You know what I'm saying? Because remember how they got Johnny. You know what I mean? These niggas regressed back, got all the way into the factory that built the damn chips of the phone, and started to implant themselves in that. These people are insidious demons. With every breath and waking act that they can muster, they're trying to do evil to try to get as many people caught up and killed as possible. So don't make it easy for them. You know what I'm saying? Don't rock with that. I'm telling you. Yeah, man. If you're gonna travel, get you a regular flip phone, or some sort of dial-up shit, some real simple shit that don't got no internet, no nothing on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. And let them go through that. You know what I mean? Leave your real shit at home. Yeah, man. That's the whole purpose. So yeah, they doing that. What else is going on? Anybody have any questions about anything before we get started? Yeah, man. That's gonna be the new. That's gonna be the new. The new money is in backdooring and finding ways around all of this fake surveillance shit. They said they found a flock camera in the middle of a goddamn golf course. Like, the fact that they even have these things out here in the public, and they're owned by corporations. They're not even owned by the government. So this lets you know that the whole shit is a op. When they talk about the deep state, you gotta understand they're talking about corporations. Corporations are working with the dark agencies and the black nobility and all of that. They are part of the whole thing. They are creating products to kill us. They are creating products to herd us into human farms and shit. Like, that's what they're there to do. They are creating um more destruction and more deaths than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's in here. All of these all of them, they're all creating circumstances by which it seems like their products are here to destroy us. You know what I'm saying? And they're getting away with it because they have a billionaire crook in the office now that is now going through his evil phase. He went through the heroic phase the first round. This now is the demonic phase. The also what's happening is that they're trying to go gloss over this whole U.S. Abraham Lincoln situation, where allegedly 7 soldiers have been trying to commit suicide. But the story I heard was that they are basically going through racial mutinies inside the thing, and them 7 soldiers or whatever was melanated people, because they got an uptake of lynchings that's going through, just like I told you they was going to do, because of the melanated people not fucking with them when they was going at everybody else with the ice shit. The whole goal of that was to geese so-called black people up to go out there and start protesting and get boxed in the head and do all of the stuff they used to do back in the day. So because we wasn't doing that, going along with their program, they decided to go, they small hat clandestine services decided to go with plan B, which was to incite more racial tension and race war equity by employing members of their so-called secret societies to go out here and plan lynchings and just start hanging melanated people all over the country again. And because your man Donnie, he ain't talking about it. They don't have no national situation going on against it the way they used to do back in the days. This is them being complicit in what is happening because nobody is taking this shit seriously. This also lets you know that these so-called black organizations, black gun clubs, black whatever black you want to put in front of that, these so-called black paramilitary associations, they don't really have no power because they're not going nowhere and investigating this themselves and handling shit themselves like any other racial group would do. You understand? If they was out here lynching so-called Hebrew, so-called Jewish people right now, what would be happening? They would have a whole new hate law. You guys understand right now, if they just start lynching Asian people, you know what I'm saying? You know what will be happening? They will be going crazy right now. They will have all types of legislation up and running to find a way to blame you for it and lock you up for the situation. One, because remember, the part of the Constitution that they added on to, which was the 13th and 14th Amendment, basically made slavery legal in jail. So the goal then was to criminalize everybody and everything so that way they could lock up as many people as they wanted. That was the beginning of the prison industrial complex in this country. So it was a bait and switch. They never really stopped slavery at all. They just redesignated it and coordinated it under a specific type of slavery that could be legal. That's why the prison system and everything is the way that it is in this country. And then through propaganda, they try to make it seem like even though everybody knows that every facet of every government agency is totally corrupt, they still want to make it like people who are getting arrested, it's still their fault for being arrested. And in some cases that may be true. However, for the majority aspect of it, if they are totally illegal in everything that they've done since the Articles of Confederation, you understand what I'm saying? Then they really have no jurisdiction to govern or put anybody in any type of jail. If anything, they need to be in jail as soon as they get in. You understand? Because the way that it works is they're not supposed to have any privacy because they are in the public. We are in the private. If I'm in the private, a public agency does not have the right to come into my private area and dictate to me what I'm supposed to do. We're supposed to have surveillance and cameras and everything on them. That's how it's supposed to work. That's how it's supposed to work. Like right now, an entire police department in Barackville, listen to that, in Barackville, West Virginia, was abruptly fired by the mayor and the city council following a dispute that included the evidence room break-in and prior resignation of the police chief. Similar extreme measures have occurred recently in other small towns due to the political friction, corruption, and staffing crisis. The mayor fired all 10 employees of the Cohutta Police Department in May. That's in Georgia. In Arizona, the city fired its entire police force and auxiliary officers following insubordination and dispute involving the police chief. In Alabama, the entire department was disbanded and rebuilt from scratch after a grand jury indicted the police chief and multiple officers on sweeping felony drug, evidence tampering, and corruption charges. Do you understand? This is all over the country. This is happening. This is why they were saying defund the police and all this other type of shit before, because they are using your funds to create surveillance to intimidate and indict you, especially now that the Supreme Court came out and said also that the police have no obligation to protect the public. So what that also means is that they have no obligation to protect the public from them. So the public have to protect themselves from the police. That's what's going on. But they're not talking about that because we all only receive about 25 to 35% of the real news every day on TV because these niggas, the Ellisons and the rest of these people are controlling all of the media now. That's why everything on YouTube sucks. That's why everything on these things suck because it's all being filtered out of Tel Aviv. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're hyper obsessed with what the melanated people in America is doing because we are the one that dictates the pulse of the world, believe it or not. Everybody is still looking at us as the forerunners of whatever political, sociological, entertainment, musical, whatever that is, they're looking at us for that. So you have all of these different groups all over the world emulating us and all of that. Even the Iranian niggas that's at war, they are targeting our consciousness. You understand? They're targeting our common sense when it comes to what these devils are doing. So this is the issue that we keep finding ourselves dealing with because we have nothing in our institutional society, in our so-called melanated black society. All the so-called black elites, they're all against us. They are all working with them and the corporations. They're all funded. Any so-called melanated black billionaire, right? Name one that has ever done anything for us collectively as a people. Name one. Name one. I will wait. Word, Johnny. I will wait. Name one that has done anything ever. At least in the 60s, they used to at least try to look like they was with the people. All the Boule, the Belafontes, and them type of niggas, they used to at least act like they was down for the people. These niggas, they don't do nothing but marry white people, put on dresses, be gay. Just the other day, this nigga Saucy Santana talked about how he got grown people in love with him and he got kids wanting to have sex with him. What? 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 And the melanated community ain't come out and do and say nothing about this. Then what, 2 days after that, he on TikTok doing dances with children in a blonde wig with a beard and nails in a dress. Like, this is what y'all doing? Nobody's condemning this, but y'all the first ones to talk about how we gotta protect the women and protect the children. Like, what? Y'all letting this freak get away with saying this type of shit? That's how they know that they could just do whatever to us and our children, lynch them, kill them, eat them, because our people ain't doing nothing. We just sitting here letting it rock like that's something cool. Oh yeah, I seen that. Yeah, they're going crazy with that. I don't know why. I was there. I watched these niggas. I watched them roll these niggas out. I remember when they was rolling these niggas out, son. They was rolling them all out into the community. And I was looking at some of these dudes like, y'all listening to this nigga? Why y'all listening to him? And then the more I noticed people stop. Well, not like the real people, but people started coming through and giving these guys platforms. And then a lot of the older lecturers and people like that, they started to basically just get, ran over, just put to the back. You know what I'm saying? For whatever the reason, got put to the back and acted like they was now niggas had problems with them, but then they giving these niggas all types of light. So I'm looking at it like, what is going on? Where are these people coming from? It seemed like every other day there was a new so-called lecturer or a new dude coming out, and he was just on every platform. And I'm looking like, what is happening? Well, come to find out, They was bringing these niggas in, you know what I'm saying, one by one, and using them to basically detract from anybody that actually was really about trying to do something with or for the people, you know. And it's unfortunate because this became the modicum. This became how these people not only gained fame, but how they were able to build literally build cults around them, you know. And the more these things started to happen, the more I'm noticing that the real people, well, I would say the real people, but the people who were bringing the truer information, the older information, they again were being put to the back. They were being dejected, low key blacklisted, you know. And really, I'm talking about myself. You know what I'm saying? I started noticing this as this became the overall trend of this type of situation. So my phone just blew up the other day. My phone blew up the other day when I woke up, and I'm looking. I'm like, what is going on? And then somebody sent me a picture of your man with the with the fingernails and the stripper pole and the tongue out and the booty popping and shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's going up the level. He's going up the levels in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like they all do. Big up to Dax News. He the one who found a picture of the handler. The handler's name is Mark Cohen. Anybody with Cohen, you already know who that is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, niggas started sending me that, and I was like, wow, this is wild crazy, you know. Then they just came out with the documentary with Eligio. I remember seeing this nigga come on. I remember watching these niggas come on the scene, and niggas that was in the actual community welcoming these niggas, bringing these niggas in, doing lectures with them. You know what I'm saying? All because they was getting views and likes and shit like that. And I'm watching the whole cult of personality build up around these guys. And I'm like, oh, this is definitely some CIA shit. This is definitely something like that. You know what I'm saying? Niggas is like, oh, MK Ultra got them and this got them. Like, they already had these niggas. So then I started noticing how all of a sudden now we getting all of these documentaries about these niggas. Like the Ligio documentary came out, right? Which I don't even understand. It's crazy and whatever that nigga did. He ain't never killed nobody as far as I know. Literally himself killed nobody. So I don't know how they wound up giving this nigga life. That was just wild to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying the nigga don't need to be punished or whatever, but life, like that shit was wild. I still don't. I'm still gotta go back and read in the case and like how that verdict was given, but whatever. Then your boy got caught with the whole child molestation shit, right? And then that went on. You had people in the community that I remember when they was big in this nigga, like when they was niggas was going to his lectures because they say, yo, he gonna teach you how to set off fires with your mind. Like this was like the tags that was going around with these dudes, right? So I'm watching that. I'm like, wow, they did a whole documentary on this nigga. Now I heard that they got that People magazine just did one on Rashad Jamal. Like, what? These niggas they really did it. Like, they really turned these niggas into the modern day Jim Jones niggas. So now whenever you hear about cults and shit like that, now we only looking at these so-called melanated men, right? Meanwhile, LDS is out here, Mormons is out here, Freemasons is out here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Literally setting people up, dying, niggas getting murdered, niggas getting sacrificed, all types of shit. But nobody doing no documentaries on them. You know why? Because we used to be the ones in the community doing that. So they had to find a way to get us to stop focusing on that aspect of our intellectual understanding about how we was being spiritually manipulated. So they started bringing all of these type of niggas out, feeding them our information, because a lot of these niggas will tell you that they was watching people like me and other people, Bobby and a lot of the old timers and shit. They used to be watching these niggas on Used to be watching them on YouTube when they was in the joint, right? And then they decided to come up and basically try their hand on it, start talking all of the good gift of gab. They know people are susceptible to that. And people who maybe don't like Moors or just maybe don't like me or maybe whatever, they'll just decide, hey, I like this guy because he's more street or he's more this. But what do all these niggas have in common? They was all criminals. They was out here in the street beating niggas up, robbing niggas, or they was making music about killing niggas. And you know what I'm saying? Then one day, boom, you know? So like you said, man, these niggas made it. They made it now, you know? So now we get to look at documentaries about these guys, right? Which then make, again, the so-called real people that was out here for years doing this type of work, real scholars, real ones that was out here that wasn't supporting this type of shit, that wasn't on debates and all of this bullshit that these guys was in, right? And then what do? They bring them down and then make them gay. You know what I'm saying? Because when you really think about it, a lot of the Comesian culture, right? Everybody want to be ancient Egyptians and shit like that. But when you really get into a lot of that esotericness of those cultures, right? The highest level of understanding in them was for them to become androgynous. Look at the statue of Akhenaten. Look at the statues of Nefertiti. Like, look at a lot of them. A lot of them have one eyes, right? They have one eye. They doing the one eye symbolism in them. A lot of them are androgynous, male and female. A lot of them, like Hatshepsut, would wear the bearded crown, right? She would wear the beard, but then she was a female, right? And the people accepted her as a man, even though she was a female. So it's a lot of this understanding that once you reach a certain level, and you starting to cross over into your higher degrees, it's expected of you to get involved with that type of blending of the so-called divine feminine, right? So if you're a man, you take on the female aspects. If you're a female, you take on the male aspects. That's a part of that so-called Comesian Egyptian high culture. Whether you want to accept it or not, that's what them niggas was doing, right? Which also explains why the society itself had to go. You know what I'm saying? It was not sustainable that you have all of these priests now who was coming out, creating these orders, accepting niggas' babies, so that way they could start to turn them out from young, creating eunuchs, creating castratos and shit like that. Like, this is what they was doing, y'all. That was part of their culture. That's what also, as great as they were, that's what also, you know, kind of helped bring them down at the same time. You understand? Because men are supposed to be men, women are supposed to be women. They keep trying to get you to accept this whole, in order for you to be a true man, you have to, you know, experience what it is to be a woman. Like, that is fake. That's gay. That has nothing to do with real high science. It don't. It doesn't, I should say. But if you believe it do, if they tell you that it do, if they offer you money and it do, then it will. You understand? This is how they get you. This is how they bring these niggas involved with it. This is how they turn them out. This is how they get you to give up your humanity, for you to become something else. You are becoming. So once I saw this nigga going up and eventually being invited to the Republican National Convention, I was like, what? This nigga made it with the rap, with the rap, Lambo or whatever the fuck it was. I was like, oh, okay, this nigga made it. And then overnight, they just turned on the nigga. Everything started being taken away. Started getting thrown in the G building. His baby moms is calling the police on him. The police is coming. Like, it was at once, and it's been downhill ever since then. Never knew the brother. Never spoke to the brother. Never anybody that was around these niggas will tell you back in the days when that shit was coming out. when that shit was coming out, and niggas would ask me, "Hey, you want to do this, this, and that with this?" But no, I don't need to be around none of them. None of them. I'm not even gonna be on camera with none of them. And a lot of the other ones that was around at that time was like, "Nah, well, I'm gonna do one with them, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that." Yup. And then boom, what happened? Now y'all looking crazy because you was condoning this shit with these niggas. Because in the end, it all goes back down to the symbolism. It goes back down to the understanding of how this works. You got those within the circle and those without the circle. 1 into 2, 2, and we do it by twos. 1 into 2, right? Then we double up the 2 into 4, right? Same thing. 4 to 8, right? Then we do the 5 into 5 into 7. See how it goes in the middle? This is the inner sanctum. You understand? This right here in the middle, where you get the 1, the 2, the 4, the 5, the 7, right? The 8. This is the inner sanctum. What exists on the outer sanctum? The outer sanctum is the 3, the 6, and the 9, which stays on the outside of this whole situation. So everything on the outside actually functions in on that, and then that creates what they call the perfect, what they call the triumvirate, or the Ein Sof, the Ein Sof or at the top, right? That's the 9. That's the divine 9. Also, this is representing of the E, right? Which they'll tell you is the perpetual East, right? But it's also another way of saying Eden. So when Tesla, who was another creation, when they say he was the Brit, he was if anybody would be able to come through, they will understand that there's nothing higher than 369. Or I'm paraphrasing, if you understood what 369 is, you rule the universe. This is what they're using. They are staying on the outside of the peripheral, on the outside of the temple, above it, in the outer sanctum, because the outer sanctum is you outside observing everything that's going on in the inside. Just like this, right? This is the same thing. You got the divine aspect of the compass, which represents the upper, right? The divine, that which cannot be accessed through human means, right? The non-physical. Then you have the physical, which is the material, which is the compass, which what you need to build, right? Then you have the G, right, which is the bridge. This is you, right? But the whole thing is, the secret is all of this is you. You're all 3 parts at the same time. This is also past, present, and future. You understand? The future is a myth because it doesn't exist. By the time you get to the future, it's already now. It's already the present. You understand? So the perpetual future is what they want to control. So to do that, they have to try to create systems of control over us now. Because this is the freest country in the world, they wanted to create a circumstance by which if they could bind this place, they could bind the whole world, right? This is why they want everybody to come here, why they've marketed it as such. Because this is the unholy communion. This is the inner sanctum. The outer sanctum is everybody on the outside representing the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof, or that are trying to manipulate everybody on the inside. You understand? The whole term America is a melting pot, that was created again by Kabbalists. All of the shit that we're suffering through is all created by those types of people. People who are involved in these so-called military or what they call mystic systems that have nothing to do with mysticism, but everything to do with control. That is the purpose of these groups. They're not about enlightenment. The only enlightenment they have is to find a way to rule over everybody that's not in the group. That's their form of enlightenment. You understand? So when you see them niggas in the lodges and they be in front like the most virtual master, the supreme grand commander, these niggas be in front of like a purple robe or purple cloth, Just like the Vatican niggas, they be in front of the purple and all of that. Remember, who invented the purple? Us, right? The ancient Phoenicians, the ancient Canaanites. Where did the purple come from? It came from the water. It came from the blood of the horseshoe crab that they still harvest, that we would basically harvest from the crab and then use to create what they call murex, the murex dye, the holy dye, that not only would they use to dye the holy garments of the people of the old Moorish nobility in them, but they will also use it to infuse their what you call it, their blood. They would internalize it. They had a means to put it into their blood intravenously, and it would clean out their blood of all toxins, because purple has the ability to do that. So when you see the purple in the lodges and all of that, that's also symbolic that that place is communing with the blue house and the so-called red house. You know what I'm saying? Because blue and red make purple, right? So these are the everything is encoded in symbols and all of this shit where you got to sit down and look at the symbols and learn the divine right of the symbols and have this old nigga come and tell you what it is, and then you got to sit there and contemplate it, and then you got to go through a ritual to reenact what the symbol is, and it's like it's all pageantry bullshit. It's all another means to get you to waste your time sitting under the feet of some nigga who really don't even know, who is acting like he knows, who is putting you through the same process that he went through, so that way he could feel like he's somehow imparting something to you. It's a scam, because man knows not from being told. You have to go and do. You have to live in the world. Everything is symbolic, but everything is symbolic, but symbolism is not everything. You understand? Some things you got to actually live through and actually deal with without help, without somebody, you going through a degree and being a part of some group that is now going to allow you to go through, all because you memorized a degree, or you had sex with the goat, or you grabbed the nigga by the balls, or whatever it is that you had to do to prove that you was worthy enough to be able to be helped by these niggas. That's why people join that type of shit. It's a way of life. It's a way for us to always be in somebody's business, always find a way to corrupt shit, always find a way to get people to be involved with whatever it is that they trying to do. Always find a way to bypass merit. That's what's going on with it. Always create a system by which somebody got to figure something out. You see what I'm saying? And instead of you helping somebody on the strength of them being an actual good person, or an actual benefit to humanity, it's all based upon what degrees that you mastered. You understand? But just the other day, they came out and they had the DEI dude who allegedly had all of these degrees and all of this, the twink black man, right? This nigga, come to find out, he didn't have none of them degrees. All of that shit was fake. Right? And then when it got too much for him, because he got found out, what happened? Now he dead somewhere. Nobody know how he died. They just found a nigga dead in his crib when shit got too hot. This is what I'm saying, man. They set you up for the fall. Because that's part of the religion. The humiliation ritual is a part of the whole thing. Because everything that these people have created runs on a grid. Let me see. 1 second. It runs on a grid. You know what I'm saying? And that grid is controlled by them, because they created a circumstance to bypass everybody who understood how to use these things based upon their original training and their original uh, uh, standards of merit and honor and chivalry. I don't mean chivalry in the form of Freemasonry. I mean chivalry in the form of like right and wrong, erring more to the right than the left. They did away with all of that in the last reset. So as great as the pyramids and the temple mounds and all of that shit was, like, all of that shit was a part of the same thing. What you looking at right here, when you look at these pyramids, these step pyramids and the pyramidion and all of that, you have the symbolic aspect of what they were, but then you also have the aspect of what they're doing now. These are data centers. Same way they're trying to build data centers around you. That's what these were. These were the first data centers in the world. By the time we started building these things physically, the society was over. You understand? By the time that we started building these things as a means of extracting energy and all of that, the society was done. Because that meant that we were losing more of our non-physical spiritual power. And so we had to find and create siphons to be able to create a physical way to hold on to what was left of it. You understand? We're looking at it all wrong. We're looking at it from the perspective of them, of how they would look at it, because they did not come from any of this. They came from animals in caves. You understand? They did not come from a high mound building, temple building culture. They came from a hunter gatherer culture. That means caves. That means primitivism. That means perpetual violence, not high intellectual thinking. Don't get it twisted. We was not the ones on the plains hunting down the buffaloes into extinction. That was not us. We was the ones living with the buffaloes. We was the ones taking care of them, creating pastures and shit for them to exist in. You understand? We did not have to live off of them the way that these primitive niggas did and do. These were the first flock cameras, the obelisk and all that. That was the first flock camera that was out here siphoning all of y'all energy and putting it into a phallus form that these androgynous fake priests, fake Freemason priests, was then using in a collective form to be able to create mystic rites and shit to make people think that they was the ones with the answers. You understand? It used to be when you looked at them pyramid, when you looked at the hieroglyphs and all of that shit on it, everybody saw what was needed for them as individuals. And then they could build on those symbols to help heal themselves from what it is that they were visually stimulated by. Then one day somebody came and said, no, we're going to give the answers as to what those things mean. And only us that is in this group have the right to give that information to you. You understand? We are getting it twisted. I told you, these niggas, the priests and these ones in those religions and those things, they were the ones perpetuating a lot of the bullshit that led to the destruction of those countries. And we sitting here trying to emulate them and be that, when all of those things, when those cultures went away and passed away for a reason. Because the culture became more important than the people. You understand? When the culture becomes more important than the people within the culture culture itself has to die. That's why we're all where we at. That's why we're where we at. That's why we're the only ones, as they say, that what? Don't have no culture, right?
And because of that, we are the most free in the mind, believe it or not. Because we're not tied down to any of the ancient shit that we created anymore. They are. They're tied down to it. They are enslaved to it. They have to uphold the shit. We don't. And what do they say? They say, oh, well, black Americans, they don't have no culture. Black Americans this, black Americans that. How does everybody have problems with so-called black Americans, i.e. Moorish Americans, when we allegedly don't have the land, don't have no money, don't have no unity, don't have this, don't have that, but then yet and still, everybody still got a problem with us. Why? When y'all got your own cultures, your own countries, your own idioms, your own sexual practices, your own Freemasonry, your own everything, but y'all still worried about what the fuck we doing. Why is that? For those that don't know, this is the white rabbit. This is the white rabbit. This is adrenochrome on a chemical level. You see how it's shaped like a rabbit? I've shown this before, but maybe some people don't know. This, the adrenochrome, this is the manna from heaven that comes from the Christ oil that drips out of your sacrum at a certain time at night. And by 3 a.m., it starts to recycle itself back up, which is why they call 3 a.m. demon time. Or they call that the witching hour, when they can go in and basically crack this shit open and try to suck it up as it's coming back up the spinal sacrum. Most, if not all of the stuff that we think was actual physical things, whether it be the Anunnaki, whether it be the Horus, whether it be... Before that shit became physical, it was all spiritual anecdotes that was used to describe the same thing. So what happened was they had to create a circumstance that it could actually become real. So that way they could now control it. And they always use your people to do it. You know who the head of the CDC is right now? The same CDC that was out here trying to get everybody to accept that poison. The same CDC that allows red dye number 5 and a certain amount of cockroach legs and feces and shit into your food every day. The same ones that allow all of the poison to come in. They got a new chick in there. They always use them. That's this chick on the left. You know what her last name is? Schwartz. When you ever met a melanated woman named Schwartz? Know where Schwartz come from? That's German. Yes, Schwarze, the way the Yiddish say, right? So you got a black German, you got a so-called African American, right? That's the one on the left that helped create the disease. And then you got this one in the middle who only vote for small hats to do whatever they want to do to everybody. The three-headed Cerberus, right? Because these people, like I said, the so-called black elites, the ones that get into office, the ones that get into entertainment, they are with them. They are not with you. They do not mess with you like that. They are only there to perpetuate what the system wants them to do. They do not fuck with y'all like that. They are only there to help herd you into the slave pen like they've been doing. When you talk about black Freemasons or whatever, you're talking about black Zionists. That's who these niggas are. Back in the days, I did a joint called Black Nazis. This is before the whole Kanye, before all of that. And niggas in the community was like, yo, what are you talking about, black now? What does that mean? Like, how are you trying to how are black folk Nazis and all that? Oh, y'all see now. Y'all see now. Y'all see now. These niggas are with them. These are the black nobility. When you talk about the black nobility, the black deep state, the black boule, these niggas work with them. They are here to help destroy you, because you are their biggest threat. Especially if you are not going through and accepting their propaganda. Their propaganda is based on keeping you, because God told you, you are the only ones that are free of everybody's culture. That's why when you start to go back and claim an aspect of the culture, of a culture that you have given up, you get so much pushback, because the only reason why these people have the cultures they do today is because you were stripped from them. You gave it up. You understand? All of these niggas right here are involved in secret societies. By secret society, if you in a Divine Nine, if you in an Easter Star, if you in any type of auxiliary, rotary, any of that, that is a secret society. That is a priesthood. If one or two or three of y'all together and y'all talking about what y'all want to do this, this, and that, technically, that's a secret society, believe it or not. But just because it's secret in a society, it don't necessarily make it evil. What makes it evil is when the society is there to do clandestine things. And that's what these niggas are there to do. Everybody blaming Fauci, but this was the bitch that was in there. She was the bitch allegedly coming up with the shit. Then when you read her tweets, she used to have these tweets when niggas was going in, and all she talked about is how much she liked white men, how better white men is than black men. Look it up. But as long as you got money, as long as you on TV, as long as somebody is in your face and they think that you got something they don't, your people will let it rock. That's how broken our people are. Y'all know Zeus Network, right? Did you know that the head of Zeus Network, this nigga Lemmy, his father is the bishop of them people over there? Did you know that? Lemuel Plummer, founder and CEO of the Zeus Network, is the son of Bishop Glenn R. Plummer. See, Plummer, like Christopher Plummer, like the plumbers that deal with the shit, right? His father is a prominent broadcaster of the Kojic. All that Kojic shit that y'all grew up in, all of that is run by them. All of that is to turn you into a evangelical Zionist. Y'all ain't know that? Yup. The Church of God in Christ, bishop who serves as a designated bishop of Israel, overseeing the Kojic denomination's jurisdiction in Israel. Did you know that y'all had jurisdiction in Israel, in the Kojic community? Look up all of the scandals that was going on in the Kojic shit. All of that Jack and Jill shit, all of that bullet, where you think it come from? Y'all knee deep with them. Why you think Zeus, every time you turn on Zeus, you see a bunch of black women and black men beating each other up, beating each other senseless, being the worst of the worst of the worst. Well, this is his pops. So you think the intelligence services from over there ain't involved with that? Y'all really think that? think they not? And then to name it Zeus. You understand the game that they running on everybody? These are black Zionists. That's what I'm showing you. And it's okay. If you want to be a Zionist and you melanated, even if you're not, even if you one of them people, right? A Hebrew or a Jew who happens to believe in Zion, do that. This is a free country. You can believe anything you want. You can advocate for anything you want. Just don't try to trick me into being down with it if I don't want to be down with it. You understand? That's where we cross the line. That's where now it becomes mind control. That's where it becomes bullying. That's when it becomes a situation of you trying to interrupt my natural inclination not to be down with it. If you have the right to support it, I have the right not to support it. And just because I don't support it doesn't mean that I'm against people who do. Because believe it or not, that country over there is a secular country. It's a socialist, secular country. Do you know that? The main people who are in there running the country, they don't even believe in the Torah like that. They don't even believe in it. Charles Herschel, the nigga who set it up, was an atheist. Why you think these niggas, you ain't never heard Drake or none of these niggas, Jay-Z, none of these niggas talk about these lynchings that's happening to our people right now? Why? Because God forbid it come out that somehow or another these intelligence agencies or one of these niggas is involved, then what's going to happen? You going to have to speak on that? Nope, can't do that. Because they the ones who cut my checks. They the ones who give me my money. They the reason why I'm able to go to the white party at Michael Rubin and them house and all of these niggas. Because they're all black Nazi Zionists. In the Havar Agreement that was written at the close of World War II, the Nazis fell into an agreement with the Zionists. And in the Havar Agreement, you can read it. It's still online. This is a fact. This is not hate. This is not anything against them. This is an agreement that they entered into willingly with the Nazis and said that they would, if the Nazis help support them, help set up the state or do what they needed to do, that they would purchase Nazi goods from them. German goods in a surplus. It was a financial agreement. And all the other so-called Jewish agencies that were around at the time looking for repatriation, they all rejected the deal. The only ones who took the deal was the Zionists. This is a fact. This is a fact. A lot of these Indians, so-called Native Americans, right? They're putting them everywhere. This chick just got let off because it found out that she was also in their army. And now she over here with under Chief Sunbear. You know what I'm saying? Trying to keep the tribal people in line. Like, what? Same thing. This nigga right here. He another one. The FBI informant was paid $177,000 to spend a year posing as a devout Muslim convert. He had to join a mosque and bug it. And he was so about his job to try to get these niggas to become identity extremists that the mosque reported him to the same FBI as a potential terrorist that they sent him to be. You can't make this up. This is a quote from Orwell. It was always the women, and above all, the young ones, who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of the slogans, the amateur spies and nosers out of the unorthodoxy. Now think about how they got women in America today. If he don't got money, he got to take you out. He got to fly you out. He ain't this. He ain't that. Those are all party slogans. They're all under the same control. He's a baddie. She's a baddie. Anytime you hear any rhetoric like that, any of this slut rap, fake feminist, self-destructive talk coming out of a female's mouth like that, you got to understand she is an agent. Same thing. Anytime you see a man who is constantly dumbing himself down, he is acting feminine, he is doing this or that, he is an agent. That's not what men do. Like right now, they got this whole thing, the diaspora wars, right? This is all CIA shit. That's all of it is CIA shit, bro. None of this shit is natural. None of this stuff is a part of anything other than the government trying to sow the seeds of discourse amongst melanated people. That's all it is. And at the center of it, as usual, are the melanated people in America. Why? Because we're the ones, see what I'm saying, who don't have the baggage that all these other niggas. We're the ones who lifted ourselves up, who fought for our own rights, did everything that we needed to do, and was able to create a rich life here despite of everything that happened. While the rest of these niggas had their own countries and still let them people in amongst them. It wasn't until the late 60s, I would say the late 70s, that our people started to rapidly decline. And that was because, again, using the female, unfortunately, as the linchpin to create the dichotomy, lifting her up above the men, right? Creating the pipeline to make the men irrelevant, giving her more money, more prestige, more ego, or aura farming, as they say, so that way she could feel she is her own individual person and was greater than the community itself. Which has now led to every other female in the world trying to follow behind this madness and be this again, baddie, right? The term bad means an effeminate man. If you say that you're bad, you're saying that you're an effeminate man. Look it up. So it gets into the fact that, we're always when anybody is constantly telling you what you are, when somebody is always coming in your face, arguing you down, telling you who you are, where you come from, they are agents. They are working with them people against you. Because the very thing that they saying don't make sense when we get into the scrutiny of it. Historically speaking, as a people, right? Y'all can hear me, right? Okay, cool. Historically speaking, most societies begin around rivers, correct? Correct. Okay. The Nile is a river. Correct? Correct. The Euphrates was a river. Correct? Correct. The Mississippi is a river. Correct? Correct. So if we come from Africa the way that they are saying we come from, that means that we will be coming from the place around the Nile or the Euphrates, right? Let's just take the Nile. So if that's the case, then that means that the Nile would be the oldest river, because that is one of the oldest civilizations in that part of Africa that we are saying that we descend from or come from, right? Right. So then how come the Mississippi is older than the Nile? The Mississippi River is older than the Nile River. Geological studies show the Mississippi River began flowing roughly 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. In contrast, parts of the Nile are estimated to be around 30 to 65 million years old, with its current integrated river system being as much younger, about 1 to 2 million years. So if Africa is older than the place that they're saying this place is, how is the river over here older than the landmass over there? Can somebody explain that? If that place is older than this place, then that would mean that the river over there would be older than the river over here, correct? Yes, everybody says correct. Okay, so how is it that the river over here in a land that's supposed to be younger than the land over here is older than the river over there? How does that make sense? Pan-Africanists, red, black, and greenists. How does that make sense? The prophet said, when the European got here, he found Moors living up and down the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is older than the Nile River, which is why we call this Nile over here the Blue Nile, right? The original Nile that goes into 7 tributaries, right? We got 7 tributaries of the rivers. We got 7 chakras. We got 7 continents. We got 7 senses, right? We got the original 7 cities. All of these 7s, which is the hidden number inside of the compass and the square, because G is the 7, right? Right. Not to mention, we just showed in the last video that southeastern portion of Africa was all the way over here, next to where the oldest river is at. Then it says the earliest mound builders in the Archaic period started around 3500 BC. This predates the Egyptian Giza pyramids by 700 years. Excuse me, I'm not yelling at you. I'm being adamant. I don't want people to feel like I'm yelling at them. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just being verbally adamant in what I'm saying. Because what I'm proving to you is that they're lying. Some early Native American mound builders cultures in North America started building earthworks around 3500 BCE. Egyptians' famous stone pyramids built 2600 BCE. The specific Mississippian cultures flourished much later, from about 800 to 1600 BC. Started around 3000, which predates the Egyptian Giza pyramids by 700 years. So one has to come before the other. So if that's the case, why are you constantly telling me that I come from a place that I don't, if I can trace my ancestry back to this place specifically? And this place, who has an older river water tributary aquifer system, independent of the other place that you guys say that you're from. Why are you constantly telling me about this? Oh, I know why. Let me tell you why. Let me show you why. Because of the devil. Because of the devil. And you niggas being paid by the devil. Look, a study, the response to the Presidential Security Review Memorandum NSC 46. Black Africa and the U.S. Black Movement. Objective of our policy towards Black Africa is to prevent social upheavals which could radically change the political situation throughout the area. The success or failure of our policy in the region depends on the solution of international and internal issues whose importance of the United States is on the increase. Watch this. In weighing the range of U.S. interests in Black Africa, basic recommendations arranged without intent to imply priority are: specific steps should be taken with the help of appropriate government agencies to inhibit coordinated activity of the Black movement in the United States. Special clandestine operations should be launched by CIA to generate mistrust and hostility in American and world opinion against joint activity of the two forces, to cause division among Black African radical national groups and their leaders. Trends in the Black American movement. In connection to our African policy, it is highly important to elevate correctly the present state of the Black movement in the United States as basing ourselves on all available information to try to devise, division, de-evolute a course for its future development. Such an approach is strongly suggested by our perception of the fact that American Blacks form a single ethnic group potentially capable of causing extreme instability in our strategy towards South Africa. This must lead to critical differences between the United States and Black Africa in particular. It would also encourage the Soviet Union to step up its interference in the region. Finally, it would pose Black Africa in particular. It would also encourage the Soviet Union to step up, since the mid-60s, when legislation on human rights was passed and Martin Luther King murdered by them. Remember, this was their agent that they killed themselves, that was admitted to by them in court, that they murdered their own Prince Hall Soviet influenced, small hat handled agent that they murdered to put our people in the perpetual trick bag of post-segregation that we're in now. They're mentioning this nigga. Measures to improve Black welfare have been taken, as a result of which the U.S. Black movement has undergone considerable changes. See? Fragmentation and the lack of organizational unity within the movement. So all of these niggas that you see and you going back and forth with, and you seeing all of this shit on Instagram and all of these different groups that's talking about the difference between Black Americans, the diaspora wars, all of that type of shit. All of that is this. The program never ended. The program itself was established by a black passing Freemason, a dirty Moor homosexual, blackmailed homosexual named J. Edgar Hoover, who may or may not be, depending on who you ask, be cousins to the nigga who set up the so-called what's his name? Larry Hoover, who was also from Chicago. You think that's a coincidence? What is with all of these niggas that allegedly are against each other both be having the same names? How did George Washington fight against King George? How did Jesus had mother name was Mary, but then his girlfriend was named Mary? Does that make sense? How is this nigga Hoover the one who destroyed the black community? Then we get another nigga named Hoover who also helped destroy the so-called black community. At what point do we see that this is all products of lazy writing? That these niggas have a set template that they always follow and get a bunch of dumb niggas to go behind so long as they pay them money. So not only do we prove that the Mississippi River is not is older than the Nile River, that all the mounds over here and all the pyramids and shit over here is older than the ones that's over there. So why are we always going over there? Once you ask yourself that, ask yourself this. How is it that they got all of these ancient so-called Egyptian artifacts that allegedly was from over there, but they over here in our museums? I done seen the tomb of Ramses in Brooklyn. I done seen the Assyrian petroglyphs of the Tree of Life and the Anunnaki in Brooklyn. For years, I've touched them. I've seen the tomb of Tutankhamun in Brooklyn. Touched it with my own hands. So why are you always telling me about shit that was already over here? Because they're liars. Because they're all lying to us. You became an African based on Freemasonry. You didn't know that? Freemasonry made you an African. How? Because the very first lodge that was created, right, for the so-called blacks was created by a black European Freemason. Y'all know that, right? Who may or may not have even existed. His name was Prince Hall. What was his first name? What was his family name? What was his mother's name? What was his father's name? Where in England did he come from? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody's asking. Nobody give a damn. Why? Because it's not important. What's important is you go along with the story, nigga. That's what's important. Yes. The first lodge. You ain't know that? It was called African Lodge 459. And at the time, the black European Freemasons, who were still a part of, under the jurisdiction of George and them, they were forbidden from having their own joint from the Grand Lodge in London. But remember, when we talk about London and all of that, hold up, give me 1 second. London originally was called Londinium, excuse me. That was founded in AD 43, right? Around 47 AD. At the collapse of the Roman rule, the people they calling the Romans, it was then reestablished under the Moorish so-called Anglo-Saxons, specifically through Alfred the Great. This is around 886. Now remember, the Moors had already came up into Spain and Sicily and all of that from 711 AD. They had already basically been running all of Europa up until then. So all of this was founded essentially by them, right? Then what we understand as Greater London, right? That was, well, let me get this out for you. Hold on. They had something called the London Government Act in 1963, which took place on April 1st, 1965. And what it did was it completely revamped the whole capital city's administration, and replaced what they consider old London, which was the old Moorish London up until then, and replaced it with what they call Middlesex County, right? Middlesex. Think about that. Middlesex. Again, androgyny, right? Again, Adam Cadmon. Again, male and female in one body. In the Greater London Council, which they call the GLC. And then from there, they established 32 new London boroughs alongside the city of London. Okay? So getting back to Prince Hall, he was forbidden. He was forbidden from setting up his own Freemasonry thing by the Grand Lodge of London, because London at this time, right, represented the geographic location or the Freemasonic location that was under the jurisdiction of the of the northern jurisdiction. The northern jurisdiction, the northern jurisdiction had its sway out of Old London. But this had nothing to do with the geographic space that we're calling London. This has to do with the Freemasonic organization by which, or jurisdiction that was at play here in the United States. Again, when they talk to you about the war between the North and the South, they're not talking about the geographic location. They're talking about the fraternal wars that were happening at the time. See? Southern jurisdiction, one thing. Northern jurisdiction, something else. So he was forbidden from doing that because he was a liege subject of the crown. So what he did was hook up with some Irish dudes who themselves were basically also slaves of the crown, but they had a military auxiliary. And so he asked them for help, and then they opened up and allowed him or them to work together and have their own like little fake lodge shit. And then eventually they got together and created, years later, he was then able to actually get a charter. Right? So from the beginning, this was about melanated Europeans on American soil becoming a part of the British Army. By Captain Scott from London came the charter, which His Royal Highness the Duke of Cumberland and the Grand Lodge of Britain have been graciously pleaded to grant the African Lodge. You see that? As the brethren have desired to acknowledge all favors. See? Shown them. They in this public manner return particular thanks to a certain member of the fraternity who offered, and lo, the generous reward this paper in time since the charter appointed to be aloft, and to assure him, though they doubt, uh, of the real friendship that he has made in many good friends. April 30th, see, under Aries in 1787. So this is after these niggas have fought the war, after the so-called independence and all of that. These niggas decide to go back under Great Britain, which was, again, the deposed dirty Moors who was being kicked out over there and trying to reestablish themselves over here, and use this as their junta to be able to recruit native-born people to become a part of it from the beginning. This is why all the rights and everything was based upon their relationship with George. And part of it was that they become a part, they would use the designation and the favors, i.e. the titles, the names given to them by the British. So just as you had the British East India Company and you had the British East Africa Company, now you have the African Lodge chartered by the British. How is this indigenous to America? Anyone? Anyone? How does this benefit the indigenous? How did it benefit the indigenous Americans? Did it stop them from getting lynched? Did it stop them from being preyed upon? Did it stop them from being enslaved? No, it didn't. What it did was it created a military auxiliary for the British crown that itself had been captured by the dirty Moors and the dirty black nobility small hats that was working together to undermine the fledgling country. This is the beginning of you becoming an African American in America. When have you ever found or heard of a so-called Black American, lack of a better word, Black American Freemasonic Lodge out here trying to fight for your freedom? Outside of the Deacons of Defense, and that was help. They used a Prince Hall. They used King to help shut that down with Vernon Johns and them niggas. They went and shut that down. Other than that, when have you ever heard of that? When have you ever heard of a group of so-called Black Freemasons getting together to go into a place and attack the Klan or attack the Ku Klux Klan or any of these white nationalist groups that was out here murdering and killing their babies? Have you ever heard of that? In the 250 years that this shit has been going on, have you ever heard of that? But they sure proud to be in it. Look at your mans. Today we celebrate the 241st anniversary of African Lodge 459 being granted its charter. The white man gave us our charter to exist. Right? The article from the Massachusetts Centennial presumably submitted. Presumably. They don't even know. they don't even know who submitted this shit. If you go to Prince Hall grave right now and dig it up, I bet you probably ain't nobody in there. Because this nigga didn't exist. Where's his house? Where's his house? Where's his mother? Where's his father? Yes. And then remember, Carpenter's Hall is where they worked out the Constitution and all that stuff. So it's always a hall. You notice that? It's always a hall that these niggas is doing stuff in that affect the whole world, but don't benefit nobody but them. This is how you became an African, under Lars to 459. But look, 4 and 5 is what? 9, right? So that's 9, 9. And 9 and 9 is what? 18, right? Which is what? 9, right? Right? So it's 999, which is what? Upside down is what? Exactly. Exactly. And then listen, and then remember the story on him is that his father's name was Thomas, right? Just like Mr. Jefferson's name was Thomas, another dirty Moor, right? Mulatto Moor, right? And then they say that his mother was a free woman of color from the French extraction from Bridgetown, Barbados. So again, from the islands. He's not even from the mainland. These are all conscripted British subjects. Older Masonic histories state that he was born free in Barbados to a man named Thomas Prince Hall, right? And a French descended mother who later moved to Boston. Then there's another story that says that, now this is crazy, that New Englander, rather than, that he was actually from New England, rather than being a Bayesian, and that his father was a tanner from Boston named William Hall, which is crazy because one of my day one noble Moors, that's his actual born name, owned him as an enslaved youth, apprenticed him, and then gave him his name. So right there, this is telling you that all of this shit is fake. Because these are 3 different stories about the same nigga. But what we do know is that he got a charter for you and you can join him. So long as y'all all agree to be Africans and y'all agree to put yourself under the British jurisdiction, which is also the British accreditation registry, which is the bar. Which, according to the laws of New London that was set up under the New London Act, happened to be in 1965 during the same Civil Rights Era Act that these niggas was doing the shit over here. They flipped everything, moved the original jurisdiction, right? And then moved it to Middlesex. So you see the scam. You see how it works. Exactly. But see, here go the irony. The irony is, in the islands, they're not Prince Halls. In the islands, they're mechanics. Their Freemasonic orders are called mechanics. They're in the order of the mechanics. Because all of them brought their shit from the older British registry, and they were the ones who were their symbols and stuff was dealing with mechanicism. So if he from Barbados, how come there ain't no shrine for him coming from there? We don't know where he from because he didn't exist. This is another scam. It's another allegorical antidote created by fake priests to get y'all involved in shit that goes against your very nature. And to make it so that way a foreign national becomes the one that y'all following. all again revolving around fraternal or fraternal orders that have nothing to do with the upliftment of fallen humanity. They are the humanity that fell. It is them. And then in turn, it fell on us. And then they use these niggas to help redefine and remake the society around us. And then got us to adopt an aspect of history that did not exist. Because they are the ones bringing the order, the chaos to everybody's life. But because we know who we are enough to know what we're not, we are going against the oath that this nigga took to keep us all under them by defining ourselves as something original and not under their British accredited registry system. You see the problem? This is why you got to be African. But the Africans don't apply this logic to anyone else that's melanated in any other part of the world, in any other country in the world. They don't go to the dark Indonesians and say this. They don't go to the dark, to say this, to the dark Indians and Dravidia and say this. They don't go to the Khoisan. They don't go to no one else outside of Africa with that bullshit but us. That should tell you something. Because they are the Jews. The real Jews are the three Jews that we saw in the movie From Hell. One of the best movies that you could ever see about the occult and how these niggas was running this game on everybody in the world, on us. Go back and watch that movie. It's about Jack the Ripper. It was directed by the Hudlin brothers, starring Johnny Depp. How all the killings was being done by the doctor of the prince for Freemasonic ritual. The real Jews are the three ruffians, the Jubalo, Jubalah, and Jubalam. Not the ones who are, not even the so-called Zionists. They are all working, like I said, together. Nice. They are the ones working together. They are the ones putting themselves in that position to be unified with everybody except us. They are the ones who have been working together for the past, since what they refer to as Solomon's Temple, which probably didn't even exist the way that they say. Wait, look at this. Because at the time that all of this was happening and they were creating all of this garbage, we was out here doing our thing with money. Get this book in the middle. It's a scam. It's a club that you're not in. And they all are working together. The same way the squares on the checkerboard work together. They're all working together against all the rest of us. And they don't care what color they are, whatever. Just recently, there was a whole beef between the white Masons and the black Masons over the Scottish Rite and the York Rite and all of that. And yet it's still these blacks ain't doing nothing to help nobody with nothing that's not involved with it. Wealthy Negroes. The material progress made by representatives of the colored race. John W. Cromwell, a Negro journalist in Philadelphia, has compiled the exhibition and the business condition of his race in America. The Carolinas take the lead in the number of wealthy Negroes. In North Carolina is 20, who are from $10,000 to $80,000 each. Same Carolina that they went in, I showed you last week, where they went in and killed all of the Moors that was running the government and was running all of the cities and all of that, and then replaced them. And Charles 14th represented 200,000. This is like $200 million back then. Our Smalls is worth 18,000, right? When we all supposed to be slaves over here. To colored American everywhere, Associated Negro Press extends greetings and urges faith, but with the work tirelessly, unceasingly, victoriously, that the labor conquers all things as it has its own reward. Thousands gather to honor Abraham Lincoln. Boom. Indians of Negro origin, blacks, not whites, were discoverers of America claim. This is back then. We've been talking this shit since back then. January 12th, the theory of the origins of the American Indians and the places the Negroes and Negroid types as their ancestors was explained in the paper by Professor Roland B. Dixon White of Harvard University before America Association for the Advancement of the Science in the convention here last week. Dr. Dixon's paper, in which he declared that the Negro groups which crossed the Bering Straits were among the American Indians. What does he say? The Negro peoples would appear to have been the first to discover America, right? Others who crossed the Bering Strait thousands of years ago to become ancestors of the American Indian were people of white stock related to the so-called Caucasian group and other Mongoloids and black Australians blended in various proportions formed in the different races of the American Indians. He ain't say nothing about coming from Africa, did he? Nothing about that, though. All of these people are lying. We was already here. These other people came here and usurped everything and then worked with the so-called black African lodge niggas to create the false history to put us under their jurisdiction. They're all dirty. That's why no black celebrity worth their salt would do anything to stop or even speak about what's happening in the real world. You understand? Not one. Because that was never who they are. They are about order out of chaos. As long as they are not dying, they are looking at it, the rest of us, as profane. A profane is anybody that is not a part of the group. They little club, they little society. And they believe that the shit that happens in the inner sanctum, which is the inside of the 369 sphere I showed you, is not real. So it all can be dusted up as just another version of the eternal pageant. What only exists is what is from the observer, from the outside, from the 369 aspect that they feel that they exist in. So in essence, when they call us profanes, that's the same thing as the small hats referring to us as goyim. You understand? They are working together. They are not separate entities. They are all getting their marching orders from the same thing. Look, Prince Don Francisco de Bourbon Graf von Hardenberg, 50th Grand Master of the Military Hospitaller Order of St. Lazarus, Jerusalem, member of the Royal House of Bourbon. See what they did? This is a proxy decoy Moor whose family, again, is acting as the frontal face, the public face of the ancient so-called Moorish order. Born in Madrid, Spain, he carries the legacy of his family, his father, the Duke of Seville, his mother, the Princess House of Hardenberg, Furstenberg. But read this. It's no secret that drugs are unstoppable money-making machine, nor is it secret that the mechanisms for laundering this money have become increasingly complex and convoluted. The goal, to make the impossible to trace illicit funds. To that purpose, drug trafficking groups smuggled 13 tons of cocaine through the arts of output of Algeciras and Cadiz. See the Moorish connection. The largest haul ever seized in Spain allegedly had an extensive network money launderers in place to move the enormous sums of money it generated. According to the investigation, Spain's Audiencia Nacional, a high court with jurisdiction over major crimes, as international web of collaborators included a Russian influencer, a Marbella jeweler who sold luxury watches to soccer players, and even a member of the Bourbon royal dynasty. The name of Francisco Joaquin de Bourbon von Hardenberg, 47. See? There's the number again, 47, the youngest son of the last Duke of Seville and a distant nephew of the Spain's King Emeritus Juan Carlos I, has surfaced in the joint. Exactly. They're all dirty. They're all down with it. It's all about the order out of the chaos. It's all a scam. They all working together. Then 23andMe just giving it up. They showed the genetics of the whites and their makeup. Remember, a sub-Saharan African, remember, at one point the Sahara didn't even exist, right? So when they talk about a sub-Saharan African, they're talking about melanated people who live in that section, that sector of the world equator, because the sub-Sahara is basically right along the equator. So anybody on that side of the world, all around, technically, if you melanated, you represent a sub-Saharan African. There's the thing in that. Just like West African don't mean people just in the western portion of Africa. It means everybody in the western portion of Africa. But we also prove that the southeast portion of Africa is over here. That's why the prophet said the northwest, southeast. So they're talking about us. It's another misnomer. Yeah, so this is them. My bad. Oh. So this them. Genetically modified. See that? This from 23andMe saying this. Then one of my Moors sent me this. Whoever made this was dope. I didn't make it, I don't know, but I was sent to it by email, so there it is. But basically illustrates it even more. God damn it. So you don't have none of these animals in you unless you start ingesting and then, doing things to bring that into you, bring that into your line. These niggas got fruit flies, mice, chimps, yeast, plants. You're the only 100% human. So of course they're gonna have a problem with you. Of course you're gonna be seen as in that. Because when they say inhuman, they're saying that you have humanity, i.e. HUE humanity in you. They are the opposite. Not because I say so, because they actions show and prove that. Look, genetic similarity to human chimpanzee, 96%. Genetic similarity between a human and a cat, 90%. Genetic similarity between a human and a mouse, 85%. Genetic similarity between a human and a cow, 80%. Genetic similarity between a human and the fruit fly, 61%. So when the Nation of Islam and them was saying that that Yaqub grafted them from the rat, the cat, and the dog, how are they lying? Because in the end, they're all Europeans. The black ones, the white ones, they all Europeans. And they have the bloodiest histories out of everybody. All of the major wars, all of the major famines, all of the major deaths, all of the major everything come from them niggas, bro. They was let out of the caves and they've been doing cave shit ever since. So again, you can have African descent if you want, but that don't mean African nativity. And this whole beef that's been coming out about these people doing the things that they doing is all because they are being used by the government to create dissatisfaction amongst all groups, so that way we just don't unite around the fact that they're trying to kill all of us, and that amongst us is an entire group of people who look like us that are helping them. And the thing that unites all of them is that they're all a part of these different groups and orders that give them an orchestrated, a unified front and a unified position that allows them to work in tandem with each other to do the things that they're doing to us. You understand? We don't come from this culture. This is not something that we've done. I've never seen a nigga put his face up to a dog's ass and do nothing. I ain't never seen that. Of all of the so-called black farmers and melanated farmers in America, I ain't never seen them do nothing like this to no cow, no nothing. No nothing. So there's nothing wrong with being African if that's what you want to be. But there is something wrong if you're trying to enforce that identity on me and you don't enforce it to nobody else. You only enforce it on the so-called melanated Moorish American. But when it comes to the Caribbean, when it came to the Haitians, and the Haitians applied to join the African Union, you told them niggas no because they're not Africans. That's what you told them just not even 5 years ago. But now y'all want to recreate the slave trade and create all of this fake information like y'all niggas was the ones fighting for the civil rights and all of that stuff that was happening. On the left side in this pictures right here, this is again showing you that there was heavy machinery at work after our countries was destroyed and redistributed, and these niggas was using these earthwork machines that was left over from us to be able to actually move whole buildings from one place to the next, all to destroy the ley lines and everything else that was going on. And again, if there's no African speaking Latin over there, then why y'all referring to yourself as why y'all still using the term African as a means of designation? Wouldn't you call yourself an Al-Kabolanian? How come y'all don't call yourself that? They trying to create all of that. They using they American born Africans. Like they got this chick Tasha K just came out against the FBAs and calling them the KKK and all of this bullshit. And then she lost like thousands, almost 200,000 subscribers in one night. Then the next day online, copping pleas, begging niggas to come back. She was wrong. All of this bullshit. Nah, man. Divest in all of these platforms with these people. She married to an African, so she got some place to go. Shit get hectic for her over here, right? She married to an African, getting sued into bankruptcy by a Dominican. It's crazy. They're crazy. But people who make their money off of gossiping about what other people doing and other people saying, this is what happens. Same thing. Everybody talking about how, Africans and these people and out, where we're from and we're all Africans and all of that. We already shut all of that down about who's older and all of that earlier. But one of the things I wanted to build on was the fact that how come none of the African languages are primarily spoken by Africans in their country? Like they have their natural dialects, their individual dialects and stuff like that, which is dope. But how come they not in there speaking their own? Like why is French and all of that spoken? How come in Africa the number one dialect spoken is not spoken by Africans? You know what the number one language spoken in Africa is? The number one. I'm gonna show you. Yeah, you would think French, right? You would think French or English or but you don't think African. Like first thing you think is something European, something that's not so-called African. Because remember, the very word African is Phoenician Latin. So when you are defining yourself as an African, you even calling yourself that, you're still defining yourself as something else. They don't even they don't even bring up Phoenicia. We're the ones bringing up Phoenicia with the word. We're the ones talking about that because again, they don't even speak the language. The name they use is not even identifiable by the language that it's called. No, the number one language spoken in Africa is Arabic. So it shows you who's running shit. And it ain't them. It ain't them. It's Arabic. You understand? So how come it's not Swahili? How come it's not Wolof? How come it's not Igbo? How come it's not Kanto? How come it's not any of that? How is it that the same Arabs who enslaved y'all and burned y'all and castrated y'all and is still enslaving y'all today? Remember, Libya is a slave state today. Today, if you got $500, you could go over there and buy an African from any country. And how come any and all of the African countries on the continent, how come they all haven't invaded Libya to take over and free their people? How come they haven't done that? You know how big the Rwandan army is? You know how big the what you call an army is? Just let's say just Rwanda. You know how big their army is? How come not one African nation has gone into Libya and destroyed the slave state that Obama helped set up to free their people? Because they got Africans from all over the continent that's enslaved there now. To a little group of not even 10,000 Arabs is doing this to the entire country. How come not one has gone there? You know what the Africans is doing though? In South Africa, they going down there with pitchforks and machetes, going through there trying to get rid of any other Africans from any other African nation and kick them out of their country. But they leaving the Indians, they leaving the Asians, they leaving the Europeans, they leaving the American whites, they leaving the Israelis in there. But then you tell me that I come from you and I'm supposed to link back up with you and I'm supposed to humble myself to you. And all you do is discriminate against your own people because y'all still wrapped up in tribalism. And of all of the thousands of years of history that you got locked up in different places like Ethiopia and all of that, y'all don't deal with none of that shit. Y'all don't even speak your own language enough to have it be the national language of your own people. It's a scam. You know why? Because a lot of these Africans is also Freemasons. They're all down with these niggas. They all get their European charters the same way the dirty boule, what you call the society niggas over here be doing. Jelani said the colonized mind is asinine. Exactly. Exactly. See that? 160 million people speaking it across North Africa. However, Swahili is the most widely spoken in indigenous Bantu languages, with the estimated 80 to 200 million speakers. Yeah, that's cool, but how come none of these languages, Swahili or Bantu or any of that, is the actual national language of these countries? How are you a free country and you speaking somebody else's English? We always spoke English over here. Because our people were invaded by 200 and by all of those 7 countries over the course of the last 250 years, including the Africans helping them do that to us. And they helped do it through this African large 459 right here. 459, which busts down to 999. So that's why they need you to become an African American. Anybody have any questions? Like I said, all of these black Jews, like Miss Schwartz, like Miss Schwartz, right? Running the CDC now. She the new one. Coming through, getting y'all caught up. Because all of these niggas worked and played the decoy game against the rest of us. Big up to my brother Saba. He sent me this from the book, The Monroe Doctrine. And then on the left side, I showed this picture a while ago as well. There's a picture of the real Roosevelt and so-called Booker T. Washington. both Boule members, both melanated, both part of the talented 10th, both part of the removal of the indigenous powers that we had here in the country, both going along with the scheme of the grand chessboard. Patriotic favor and devotion and the principles of the civil religious liberty have continued to inspire the citizens of every state in this union from the day of our independence to the present. As time went on, some differences of opinion sprang up as the methods whereby these principles could be best maintained. Our government is dual in form. The American altar is a double one. One is the altar of the state, the other of the United States. The two altars joined constitute the shrine of American allegiance and citizenship. We can do no better than to copy the Supreme Court of the United States says on this subject. The distinction between citizenship of the United States and citizenship of a state is clearly recognized and established. Not only may a man be a citizen of the United States without being a citizen of the state, but an important element is necessary to convert the former into the latter. He must reside within the state to make him a citizen of it. But it is only necessary that he should be born or naturalized in the United States to be a citizen of the United States. It is quite clear then that there is a citizenship of the United States and a citizenship of a state which are distinct from each other. This is what the Supreme Court of the United States said and published in deciding what is known in the legal profession. See these two black men? But every picture you done seen of Roosevelt, right? Been a white man. But here he is with the melanated man. And they both the same color. Isn't that interesting? Yes, her husband is Daniel Schwartz. Exactly. He's a fellow from Brown College. Exactly. 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 And you think she gonna do something? You think if something pop up that look like it's gonna destroy humanity the same way the other thing was, you think she gonna step up and do something about it? Nope. She gonna sit there and toe the line. That's why they all marry outside of their race. That's why they all put themselves in position. That's why you be watching these people. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Yeah, that's why. They'll all do that. Because they have nothing but contempt for the rest of us. You understand? And they come from families where this is a part of the ritual. This is what they do. Because they have They have spread themselves so thin and are so against us that this is the only way that they feel that they can move up, because this is their religion. That's what you don't understand. That's what we fail to understand. Their religion is working with these niggas against us. You understand? So if she don't even love her own self, her own people enough to marry within that to create more of herself, why would she do that? That's like that nigga. That's like that chick Rock, the chick from Raising Canaan. Rock. She married to a white man. Why does that matter? Because all of the roles, the role that you most famous of is playing this real hardcore ghetto chick that is the worst mother and the worst person in the world. And these roles that they play are rituals. You understand? That intone a certain frequency on everyone. And so again, if you will join and play a role where you're killing your son, where it's like, this is all that 50 Cent know. He always making TV shows where the father's killing the son and all of that. Why? Because his mother was murdered. His mother was a homosexual allegedly and was murdered. So again, anything that makes us look horrible is what they want us to participate in and be a part of. Specifically us. Yup, Eve, they all of them, all of them, all of them. You understand? All of them. So why would you trust, why would I trust anything, especially my health, to somebody who not only is a part of an organization that's already proven itself that it'll do anything for big pharma and all of that? Why would I believe anything that this puppet is going to tell me when everything that she is around and is from is a part of their world, and their world is there to help destroy ours? Serena, Gabby Sidibe, all of them, all of them. You understand? This is a political act. When you do shit like that, that you are making a political statement as to what side of the ledger you stand on. And it's not with us. You heard? It is not with us. So again, it's all based on Nephilim worship. It's all based on the taking the excess of us. Anybody else? Anybody else? Give me a second. So when you see these dudes bug out and they start going homosexual on you after being the most alpha males and all of that, that's part of them accepting their degree, their right, moving into the so-called Egyptian mysteries, becoming women, being penetrated by as women, things like that. That's part of how they ascend into the inner sanctum. Excuse me, to the outer sanctum. That's part of them. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, Nimrod, even Nimrod was a homo, right? Remember, he was fighting he got into that big fight with his friend, the beast that he was fighting for all of them years, and then it turns out that he really respected him in his fighting, and then they wound up becoming companions and partners. He used to have sex with him. So that's part of the ritual. That's part of the brotherhood. Because you take in the brother's hood, right? The legend of the craft in the constitutions referred to Nimrod as the founders of Freemasonry. Thus, in the York manuscript #1, we read, "At ye making of ye the tour of the Tower of Babel, there was a mason first, much esteemed of the king of Babylon. He was called Nimrod, was a mason himself, and loved well masons." Right? And the Cook manuscript thus repeats the story. And this same Nimrod began the Tower of Babylon, and he taught his workmen the craft of masonry, and he had with them many masons, more than 40,000. See that number again: 40, 40,000, 47, 46, the 40-40 club. And he loved and cherished them. And the idea no doubt sprang up from the scriptural teaching that Nimrod was the architect of many cities. A statement is not well expressed, authorized version. The Nimrod was also Gilgamesh. So the G in the symbol is also symbolic of Gilgamesh. You understand? So it's God, but remember the God that they seen as the first one who built the first temple, as much as it was Solomon, it was also Nimrod, who was also Gilgamesh, who was also the God King, whose name starts with G. So it's all of these allegorical antidotes to hide the fact that these niggas is all sleeping with each other in one way or the other. Anybody have any questions? See, look at this. Yeah, so boycott Zeus, boycott Walmart. They just came out and was talking about how they're gonna ban the black man who was in there buying people's groceries. They done banned him from every Walmart in the country, and if he goes to anyone in the country, he's gonna be arrested. They are literally waging war against the constituents, against the consumer now. It's a literal war against people, and then we still gotta pay them for shit. Nah. At some point, you just gotta say no to it all. That whole story of Hiram was all encoded about stealing the land from the original man with the three ruffians, the three so-called Jews. And it went from 1771 in London to 1725 in Ireland, 1728 in France, 1728 in Spain, 1731 in Italy, 1736 in Scotland, 1737 in Germany, 1756 in Netherlands, 1759 Sweden, 1771 Russia, 1787 April 1st, in April in America with the founding of the African Lodge. And they've been working together ever since, man. Both the Yorks and the Scots. Both named after Moorish families. Get the ancient and modern Britons, get the Negro rulers of Scotland. For more on that. Anybody have any other questions? Yeah, but they all work together. The Nazi, all of these niggas, bro. That's why we're on our own. And the only way you can get past it is if you join. But to join, you know what you got to do. You know what you got to do. And ain't no real man gonna sit there and let another man do that. And remember, they're like the Arabs with the taqiyya. They can lie about what it is that they do and what it is that they don't do, so long as you're not one of them. So they have an open end policy to lie about everything, because technically you're goyim or you're profane, so you don't really count. So if they're lying to you, it's like lying to a dog. Anybody have any other questions? You know what I'm saying? And they all down with it, Moors. It's all of them. You understand? They're all idol worshippers. They'll do anything for money. They'll play any role that they need to play in order to be accepted by these people. I don't care who they are. That's what they do. And the ones that ain't, you don't see them out there like that. Or they get rid of them. They are only there to help control you, unfortunately. So don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever believe that it's something that is not. Anybody have any other questions? Indeed. Okay. So if anybody else wants to hit me up, please do so at houseofel@hotmail.com. Also, here's some books you can check out real quick. Oh, I meant to show y'all this too. There's more proof of what I'm talking about. This was allegedly the 3,000-year-old Freemasonry police force that they was using, doing hits on everybody, and it was all being run, help being run by Kamala Harris, allegedly. And all of these niggas was around Bill Clinton and everybody in politics. They had their own bishops and everything, and they were invested in almost every police force around the country through this thing they have called the Fraternal Order of Police, which again is a Masonic group that is paid for by the people for them to do rituals and shit on you. So they're using your money and they're using their position to again inflict pain and torture on people. And this was being run out of the highest levels of government. It probably still is. They just made these niggas the scapegoats for it, probably. But you can look this up. They tried to bury this when she was running for president, but people like myself was putting it out there, so they really couldn't do it. Couldn't get rid of it. But But yeah, they said that and when they got caught, they said they showed them their badges, they gave them their Masonic signs, and they said that they were part of a 3,000-year-old police force that's been running out of all the police forces in the world. So check these out. You can also get these books. Again, Masonry as a concept is all good because it's ancient and it has nothing to do with all of the jargon bullshit that they're doing with it now because it's been totally corrupted. But for the most part, it was always a means of control over the masses. Always. If you want to learn how to build a house, you don't have to join a Freemason club to do that. You can just go to school and learn. Understand? It's only after you get through with it and all of that if you want to join up with a certain group to get certain contracts and shit, they want you to be down with that. That's when it turns into some bullshit. That's why they had an anti-Freemasonic party in this country that got Andrew Jackson elected until they turned tail and wound up going and joining the same shit they said they wasn't with, which is what always happens because they'll lie. They'll do anything. Like I said, like with the Muslims, they'll do takia, act like they not with what they want to do. They act like they not with Sharia law, all of that. Then once they get in, they start flipping it on you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all a scam, man. If they lie about one thing, they lie about everything. You heard? So don't let them fool you. Anybody else? Yeah, so please check out www.aseerthejugateers.com. Also, you can check out www.cordobaorganics.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the ADOT app. It's up now on Apple and Google Play. If you haven't seen it already, definitely check that out. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube page, please do so. If you can and you see the hype button on the joint, please hype it up. All of that really helps. Striving to finally pass 60K after being on it for what seemed like 50 years. You know what I'm saying? If you can help me bust that, that'll be good. Also, if you can donate, because again, obviously, by what I'm talking about, we don't have no sponsorship. So if everybody that ever watches could send something, it definitely helps keep the whole machine going. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man. I don't know what else we could actually say with this one. But I hope it was informative. I hope we all learned something. And again, if you guys want to hit me up for consultations, bookings, lectures, whatever, hit me up, houseofel at hotmail.com. And yeah, Morse. In ruina Rome mortis, proconima lut laudibus, nobilis maximus. And yeah, man, let's get it. Let's stay as unified as we can. Don't fall for the bots that's trying to get you involved in all of these fake diaspora wars, when all of it is either Russian bots or CIA or fake Africans and all of that.
And if they're not willing to apply that same rationale to any other so-called melanated person on earth about being from Africa, and they only doing it to you, you know that it's all part of a ritualistic scam. Because the Mississippi is older than the Nile, which means that the land is older. And remember, we are indigenous to Earth itself, not just one part of it, but the entire planet, because we don't have animal DNA in us unless we put the animal DNA in us. You understand? So keep animal DNA from out of you, and you will be what you are, which is an arm, leg, arm, head. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I say peace, and inshallah, we'll get into it next week. All right? Peace. Yeah, the donation and everything, that's in the description. Just go to the description thing and you'll see it right in there. All right? All right, nobles. Peace.